Eagle swag on the rise each and every night. Tone and Marcus got the scoop ready to ignite. From the lanes of South Street to the Broad Street lights. Dashing like a running back, hitting every play. Blind guys in the zone, never led astray. Talking touchdowns, talking game day. Huddle around the mic, hear what they gotta say. Fly like an eagle soaring in the sky. Tone and Marcus always standing by. Bringing their heat, call it do or die. Philly squad, hear the battle cry. Fly like an eagle soaring in the sky. Tone and Marcus always standing by. Bringing their heat, call it do or die. Philly squad, hear the battle cry.
What's up, squad? We are back at it again. The Bald Eagles podcast is in effect. I am Coach Marcus. My man Tone the Shields II is in the building.
Talk to him.
And you can't see it right now, ladies and gentlemen, but I got a towel right off screen because we about to get in the mud. We about to get with it.
Talk to him.
The target of the Jalen Hurts disrespect just continues to roll along. I don't know why. Everybody seems to want to add something else to the story. And I'm like, you could have said this shit months ago. Why is it relevant now? We all know the struggles that Jalen Hurts had. We all know that, you know, if you really watching it and you keeping it 100, you know Jalen Hurts has some issues and some things that he needed to do better. Nobody has never not said that. However, these folks are just taking it to the next level and they making it personal and it's just, and some of the stuff that they saying is just ridiculous, out and out ridiculous. And the one thing I've noticed is a lot of these guys are they talking on both sides of the fence. They want to be positive when it's in the narrative, then they want to go negative, and they saying just enough on both sides. So if it goes either way, they got little tidbits on both sides of the fence, and everybody full of shit. You already know how I feel about sources, but we gonna get into that later. Tone, how you feeling, brother?
First and foremost, man, y'all tune into the Bald Eagles podcast. Y'all know the vibes. Y'all know the energy. Make sure y'all smash that like button. Make sure you guys are subscribed to both channels. Again, subscribe to Pro Fan Talk. Marcus does a phenomenal job over there. Make sure you guys subscribe to Chalk It Up Sports, man. Appreciate you guys. You know, you guys are getting your weekly dose of the Bald Eagles podcast. On top of that, you're getting other content as well. So make sure you guys stay locked in. And I do appreciate you, Marcus, for setting the table. Like I said, you do a phenomenal job. And you're often the voice of reason on this show.
I try.
You're often the you balance the scales. Let's make that clear. So your value is bar none, chef's kiss, incomparable. But like you said, today is going to be a day where we just let it rip. All right? We just going to let it rip. Forget feelings. Forget how this person may think, or we going at it. So I'm really excited to be here today to have this conversation with you about the Jalen Hurts stuff, because just when I thought you and I talk about Jalen Hurts too much, they found a way to reel me back in. And some may say, Tone, you're about to give a biased perspective today. And, you know, I look at the hat I'm wearing, and then I look at the memorabilia behind me. Shout out to Desai Art. Desai Art does phenomenal work. You know, I got the Hurts Smitty comic book background right here, comic book poster, and I got the official Spectre Art Jalen Hurts poster behind me as well. Shout out to Spectre Art. And you're right. I am a fan of Jalen Hurts, but I'm a bigger fan of the Philadelphia Eagles, but I'm also a bigger fan of fairness. And what I've been what I've been witnessing, what I've been sitting back and watching is a bunch of people throwing stones and hiding their hand. A lot of throwing stones and hiding their hand, a lack of accountability. And, I don't really listen to the Pat McAfee show a lot, but he said something that was pretty interesting to me. He said, I got to be honest. And he basically said, what's the point of anonymous sources in sports? Like we're not talking about politics. We're not talking about the nuclear launch codes. We're not talking about the politics in Belize or in Iraq. We're not talking about life-changing stuff. We're talking about sports. So if you got something to say, put a name on a bullet. But nonetheless, people want to keep their jobs. And whether people want to accept it or not, politics isn't just in government. Politics exists in your day-to-day life. See, don't think about politics in the traditional sense. Think about it in terms of interpersonal relationships. Think about it from the perspective of careers and getting ahead and keeping what you have and so on and so forth, right? A lot of kissing ass, but also a lot of back.
A lot of kissing ass.
Listen,
that's an excellent way to put it, bro.
Listen, you only a few inches away from kissing ass and biting somebody back out. You ain't that far. You get what I'm saying? It's right there. It's right there. God. If you kissing ass, you can just as easily bite somebody back out. It's that easy. It's that close. And that's kind of what it seems like when the Jalen Hurts discourse is going on, right? Because the same thing that people lauded him for, they praised him for, they gave him his flowers for, is the same thing they're trying to use to bury him.
Correct.
Right? Listen, soil breeds beautiful vegetation, beautiful flowers. Soil also can bury a body.
Facts.
So when you shift your perspective and think about how what can make you laugh, can make you cry, it just shows where we are, and it shows how fickle people are and how opportunistic people are. Because, and again, we could take this angle by angle, wherever you want to take this or wherever you want to begin, we could begin there, because I think there's a few angles to approach this. But let's start here, if I may do so. Let's start with the Jalen Hurts saga. Let's just start with how he got here, career-wise. Jalen Hurts went to the University of Alabama. 2-year starter, 2016. And in 2017, he was a starter up until that national championship game where he got benched at halftime.
Right.
And Jalen Hurts has won significantly more football games than he's lost. But I digress. Started in 2016. Started in 2017, got benched in the national championship game, supported this guy Tua. They ended up winning the game. Jalen Hurts is the first one running down the sideline. What does Jalen Hurts do? Jalen Hurts doesn't run, tuck his tail and run. He comes back the following season, supports his quarterback and Tua, stays in the Nick Saban system, and just is patient. Patient. And when he had to show up for that team, he showed up in the SEC championship game when Tua back got blown out. Or was it his hip? I can't remember. Something always falling off on him.
Right.
So Jalen Hurts once again saves the day. All right. That was the first time I'm getting ahead of myself. That was the first time we saw the Jalen Hurts cape come on. Oh, okay. This kid, he weathered the storm. When everybody thought he was dead in the water, he said, "Nah, I'm ready. I've been waiting for this moment." And he showed up and did his thing in the SEC championship game.
Showed up and showed out.
After his junior year in Alabama, after coming back, after getting benched, he says, "You know what? I did the right thing. Now it's time for me to do what's right for me. I did what was right for the team. I did what was right for the quarterback. I did what was right for the coach. I did what most people say you shouldn't do if you want to have a future in the NFL." He decided to stay. The following year, he says, "You know what? I'm taking my talents to Oklahoma," where he was able to get coached under, and I want to make sure I got this right here, Lincoln Riley. He was coaching the Lincoln Riley. And that 2019 Oklahoma team was phenomenal. Went 12-2 on the season. 8-1 conference record. I mean, did spectacular things, lost in the Peach Bowl, got blown out by LSU. I mean, Joe Burrow was on a tear.
Right.
Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, that was that squad. that was that squad.
That was second. Jalen got second in the Heisman that year, right?
Correct. Jalen Hurts came second in the Heisman. Came second in the Heisman. So I digress. Jalen Hurts takes his town to Oklahoma. He is runner-up to Joe Burrow for the Heisman. Jalen Hurts that season, 32 passing touchdowns. And on top of that, he had 20 rushing. 52 touchdowns. 52. And if you want to count the one he caught, 53.
Right.
Productive. And what happens in that 2020 draft class, you got quarterbacks like Tua Tagovailoa going in the first round, right? No, I'm sorry. Let Joe Burrow going first overall. Then you got Tua going 5th overall. You got Justin Herbert going 6th overall. You got Jordan Love going 26th overall. And then Jalen Hurts goes in the second round, like 50-something over 53rd overall. Waited his turn again. Second round pick. No 5th year guaranteed. No 5th year option. You got 4 years to show us something, brother. 4 years. While those other guys got 5. And on top of that, their first round picks, their leashes are naturally longer than yours. So you got to hit the ground running as soon as you get that opportunity. What does he do? Carson Wentz gets benched. He injects some life into that Eagles team. We all knew they were dead in the water already, but we needed to see something. He injected life. And then they benched him in the final game against the Washington Commanders because they said, oh, he may win this game. We want a better draft pick. So he sits back. 2022 season comes where he gets his real opportunity. I'm sorry, 2021 comes. He gets his real opportunity. He takes a team 9-8 record. Shane Steichen and Sirianni and Jalen Hurts figure it out. Balanced offensive tech. That's Jalen Hurts' style. 2022, Super Bowl run. They lose the big game, but not because of Jalen Hurts.
And that was 2022. Steichen that was all Steichen as OC, right?
They were poetry in motion. They figured it out.
Yeah, because the 21, it was Sirianni and Steichen. 22, it was Steichen.
Yeah, correct. So I'm looking at this situation. 2023 happens. All right. You got to start off strong, but things kind of go downhill. All right. Things happen. Bad years happen all the time. Players fuck up. Ain't about nothing. 2024 comes. What happens? Stays the course. Does exactly what he's told to do. Efficient. They win the Super Bowl. Balls out in the Super Bowl. Balls out. Was the offense. Saquon Barkley wasn't doing what he normally does. Granted, I thought he was very effective in that game in the way he needed to be. But yeah, Jalen Hurts did what he was supposed to do in that game. Won the football game.
And let us not forget, everybody talks about the Chiefs. They held Saquon to 48 yards rushing? But he also had like 37 yards receiving.
He had like 90 yards total.
I thought it was like 97 all-purpose yards.
Yeah, he had like 91, something around there. Basically, he had just over 90 yards all-purpose. But he had like 30 touches.
Right.
And Jalen Hurts was hitting him a lot in the passing game, check downs. That was a game where Jalen Hurts was like, whatever you give me, I'm taking it. So 2025 comes, and the season, they start off strong, kind of, from a record perspective, but it still looked off. And Kevin Patullo gets fired. They lose in the wild card game. Patullo gets fired, and now everyone's taking their chances to throw Jalen Hurts under the knife. And I just have a hard time understanding people's perspective when it comes to Jalen Hurts' success, because this isn't a guy who was a free agent and went to a team that was already stacked. This was a brother who, quite frankly, weathered the storm and All he did was keep his head down, work on his craft, and was ready when the opportunity was given to him. And I'm tired of people discussing Jalen Hurts as if he gamed the system. I'm tired of people talking about Jalen Hurts as if he's somehow cheating the game. Like he's somehow baiting foul. You know how the NBA they call guys foul baiters?
Yeah.
Guys that are gaming the system. Oh, you're leaning on the refs. Jalen Hurts is a guy who every step of his career, every step was doubted. Well, actually, no, I take it back. He went to Oklahoma. He was the first year, he was the first year starter. Then got humbled the following season. Humbled. A lot of guys don't come back from that. They don't come back from that. Guys get benched at halftime in the national championship game, the second biggest football game in the world.
That's embarrassing.
Second only to the Super Bowl. Second only to the Super Bowl. To get benched in the national championship is like damn near getting benched in the Super Bowl.
Yes.
And what does he do? Comes back the following year, supports Tua, holds it down.
And Tua was balling.
And Tua was balling. Can't even get mad at Tua. He did what he did in college. He was balling. Can't say he didn't deserve to get drafted that high. He was doing his thing. But my point is, like, Jalen Hurts was a second-round pick. Already he's doubted. When you look at the scouting reports and how people discuss Jalen Hurts and how they was talking about him in the media when he got drafted, so on and so forth. This Jalen Hurts, according to them, according to the people over yonder, he was never supposed to be where he is today. And I think that's what gets under their skin the most.
I agree with that.
That's
100%.
what gets under their skin the most, Marcus, that it shouldn't have been him. It couldn't have been him. It wouldn't have been him. It wasn't supposed to be him.
And you know whose fault that is? It sounds funny, I'm saying this, but I remember how it went with Lamar. When they tried to tell him to work out as a receiver and all of that kind of stuff. Last one picked in the first round. Him and his mom in the red room by themselves with his head down on the table. All of that type of stuff. And I remember specifically, because, I'm going to support all my Kentucky schools. I remember specifically watching the game with Lamar Jackson, and he ran, I don't know, he had 200-something yards rushing at Louisville. Scored like 4 touchdowns. He had a ridiculous game. And the only commentary was, he is fantastic, but that is not going to translate in the NFL. He is not a good enough thrower of the football to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. And the very next week, he comes out and he throws 5 touchdowns in the air. And he wasn't just dinking and dunking. He was throwing absolute dimes in the air. And it's like, now what's the excuse?
2 MVPs later.
2 MVPs later. Now what's the excuse? So, and I look at the situation with Lamar. Fast forward to Jalen. The same thing. Now, Jalen wasn't the first round pick. Jalen was the second round. He had the pressure of and the chaos that was Carson Wentz that year. Not to mention by now we beating a dead horse with how many OCs he's had, and that doesn't get enough importance when people talk about him. I've only heard 1 or 2 people talk about that specifically. Dan Orlovsky has mentioned that, and Sean King mentioned that on G. Bush's show the other day. And it's like, I'm sorry, on Coach and JB's show, but they do not give him enough credit for going through all of these offensive coordinators. Then on the flip side of that, they want to spin the narrative like, well, maybe they're going through so many offensive coordinators because they don't like working with Jalen. It's like, no, 2 of them offensive coordinators got head coaching jobs. The rest of them, it just didn't work out. And for me, whether you believe it or not, whether you think they deserved it or not, I would have rather have seen Brian Johnson on for a second year. I would have rather seen Kevin Patullo stay on for another year. Because there's something to be said when you have the same voice in your ear for a long period of time. Why you think Patrick Mahomes is so good? The only person he got to worry about is Andy Reid.
That's a different thing, though. Only because
Well,
I don't think you're wrong about the theory of you got the same person in your ear. It can only get better. It can only improve, right? But Mahomes to inherit Andy Reid at that point was a God's gift.
yeah, but my point is, the only coach Mahomes has known is Andy Reid, and without a shadow of a doubt, Eric Bieniemy and all them other coordinators that they brought in there, it is no misunderstanding who calls the offense for the Chiefs.
But that's the problem for Philadelphia.
No, that's my point.
Okay,
that's my
go.
point. My point is Patrick Mahomes has the same dude in his ear. They are on the same page when it comes to Patrick Mahomes can run that offense in his sleep because he's had the same voice in his ear. Your boy out with the Rams, he's had the same voice in his ear. So you got some of these quarterbacks who have the same coach. I don't care if it's a coordinator or a coach, but in those situations, usually like Andy Reid and what's his name out in LA, McVay, they are calling the shots. It might be a different coordinator because you got to have a coordinator on your staff. But there is no misunderstanding who is calling the offense. So the quarterback has the same person. You get used to that cadence. You know what they're talking about. You already know what they want. It's already there. And when you have somebody different in your ear, giving little wrinkles, Kellen Moore wasn't doing everything that Sirianni wanted to do. That's why it was you had a little bit of trouble in the beginning of that Super Bowl year. Because if you remember correctly, everything wasn't all sunshine and rainbows with Kellen Moore the first 4 or 5 games of that season. If you remember correctly, the offensive line had to go into Sirianni's office and say, hey, we need to be running the damn ball. That's exactly what they did. They still had to find themselves. And then credit to Howie Roseman, we had a gentleman named Saquon Barkley that came down the turnpike and threw everybody for a loop. Because let's be real, we wanted Saquon to be good, but nobody expected him to be that damn good. Nobody expected him to have the second best year of rushing in NFL history or whatever it was. So that was very thick icing on that cake. So I guess my point is, if you give Jalen Hurts somebody that knows what they're doing and that can stay in his ear, and both times we only had Kellen Moore for 1 year, correct?
Correct.
Shane Steichen was the one that stayed for 2. And statistically, when was Jalen Hurts' best years? 22 and 23. Because if you remember, 23, he had a good year.
It was just the turnovers. It was just turnovers.
The turnovers, but the bottom fell out. He still should have had 4,000 yards passing, but the last 4 games we couldn't tackle a soul. And you had the Matt Patricia, Sean Desai. The defense couldn't do anything. It was horrible. And I remember specifically that game. Was it the Seattle game? We had to win that game and we ended up losing.
Yeah, it was a combination, but yeah, that was the one.
Yeah, and it was like but the offense was trying to keep pace because the defense couldn't keep nobody out of the end zone. He was getting it done then. So my question becomes, well, what the hell happened? Was Shane Steichen that much better? Probably. I'm not even sure. I don't know what the deal was with Brian Johnson. I don't know if he was good or not.
Yeah.
But I got to put Brian Johnson in the same hole as Kevin Patullo. I don't know if they were good or not. Although it seems like they may have been a little bit over their head because in both situations, it seemed like they was losing chess matches. They wasn't calling the right plays versus the right defense, and the defense knew what the hell we was coming with. We were very predictable. We saying the same things about Kevin Patullo that we said about Brian Johnson. Maybe he's over his head. He don't know what he's doing. We're very predictable. All of that type of stuff. But then we had them bipolar games where we had the first half is fire. And then the second half is straight trash. Then the next game, the first half is trash, and then the second half is fire. So it's like clearly there was some glimpses of some things that somebody was doing right.
Correct.
And then when the defense makes an adjustment, we can't adjust to the adjustment. And I'm sorry. I don't give a damn what anybody says. I don't care what film you looked at, because I looked at the film 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times myself. And guess what? I'm just not buying that Jalen Hurts called 4 verts. But watch this. Even if he did, let's go with that. Let's say he did call, he was the one that called the 4 verts. I don't think he did, but coordinator to have enough acumen to say, no, we not, because that's his job. The offensive coordinator, that's your job. You got to have the best answer to a situation like that. It is your job to say, no, we're not calling that again. We just ran that play. They know it's coming. We got to go with a different. That's his job.
Mm-hmm.
So if they trying to throw Jalen Hurts under the bus for the 4 verts, to me, that's a bigger indictment of Kevin Patullo than anything else. Because if I'm not mistaken, and again, I done watched that video clip a ton of times, and it looks like to me that Sirianni and Kevin Patullo look at each other and go, am I crazy? Like,
no, you're not crazy.
Like, what do you want to run? And Sirianni was like,
Marcus, you're not crazy. Here's the thing, right? You said something very key. Do your job. And unfortunately, because of the constant turnover at that OC spot and Nick Sirianni's inability to be able to call plays, you put Jalen Hurts in a position where he not only has to do his job, but he felt like he can't trust you to do yours.
Facts.
And I think that's the angle people not talking about, that they're not approaching that angle enough. When you're dealing with that much turnover from a coaching stand perspective and your head coach can't call plays and he's not really creative in that way, you're left to your own devices.
Yeah.
And I cannot get mad at somebody for not having trust in a coaching staff that can't maintain continuity. I cannot get mad at a quarterback for saying, damn, if I don't do it, it may not get done. The reality is Jalen Hurts is a dude who is very coachable. He craves tough coaching. He's been on record. And too often you got motherfuckers in this building trying to be his friend.
I was saving that argument for later, but we can get into that. The whole uncoachable.
He don't need
thing.
a friend. He don't need somebody to wax poetic about him in press conferences. He needs somebody that's going to hold him accountable on that football field. You know, I think that article was saying that the relationship between Kellen Moore and Jalen Hurts was a little bit tense. Good.
They don't have to be friends.
Good. But even beyond the friend part, right? Good. I want my people to know, hey, listen, we in this for the biscuits, okay? We not just here just to show up. Do your job. I want you to feel just enough pressure on your job. Just enough. Not too much where you fold. You need, or you crumble, or you get crushed. I need you to feel just enough pressure to know what's at stake here and what we trying to do here. I don't need you to be buddy with me. I don't need us to have handshakes. Nah, I want you to hold me accountable. I want you to teach me something. I want you to take my game to another level. This is the pros, don't get me wrong, but these guys are still being coached. And you still got to put the right people in position to bring the best out of your players. It's just that simple. So again, I'm not going to sit here and look at Jalen Hurts as a guy that's all of a sudden he's the Achilles heel. Jalen Hurts has been the constant through all the up and down, the turnover, all the bullshit narratives in the media and all this stuff. Jalen Hurts has not once jumped out the window and said, "Hey, listen, man, let me clear this up." He let Sean make the narratives and he do his job and focus on the game. Like, that's why I can't trust the narrative that Jalen Hurts is uncoachable or he's somebody that's unapproachable, because Jalen Hurts is somebody he's proven that I know how to stay in my lane.
Yeah, but even the whole thing of him being uncoachable, right? You got a coach's son that played for Saban
and Lincoln Riley,
and you got a nerve to say he's uncoachable. Mind you, up until this point, did anybody ever say he was uncoachable? No. That's how you know this a hit piece. Is a smear campaign. And listen, as somebody that played at that level, as somebody that still watches film, I have no problem with somebody saying, you know what, Jalen Hurts just ain't it. I don't like the way he throw the ball. He misses receivers. Because there is truth to that.
I can make
If
you keep it on football.
If you keep it on football,
I can't. It's like, all right, this is what it is. Now, and my retort to that would be, all right, well, the results are still the results.
Thank you.
Right?
That was my next point.
Because you can keep it on football. If you want to get into the mechanics and the technicalities of the position, hey, listen, you may have me beat there.
Well, here's the thing. You don't even have to go that far with it. I can go back and pull my own receipts where I was like, Jalen Hurts, you missed some open guys across the middle. You did this, you did that. You could have did this better. You missed that guy. You went through your progression too late. You should have left the pocket a half a second earlier, or you wouldn't have taken that sack. There is enough guilt to go around. He is not blameless. He is not exempt from criticism from the game. However, if I'm going to give him the criticism, and it seems to me that everybody is keyed in on the optics, because conversely, you got somebody like Josh Allen, you got somebody like Herbert that they check out all the boxes that everybody's looking for. Jalen throw for 140, 150 yards a game. Well, they throw for 250, 300. What have they won? Because eventually, if you really go get down to it, that's the only thing that should matter. But now all of a sudden it doesn't.
Marcus, I love where you're going, because the reality is what they're showing us, especially with this article. And, I hate the angle that people are taking. I think Jalen Hurts actually didn't come out too bad in his article. I feel like the article was pretty down the middle, pretty fair, pretty 50-50. Duh, stupid. Duh. It was perfectly written. It was perfectly written. They gave you just enough you said it earlier, they gave you just enough on one side and gave you just enough on the other side, just to confuse you and force people to pick a side.
Yeah.
And, to your point, it's like Jalen Hurts and the Justin Herbert comparison and the Josh Allen comparison. You know what it seems like? It seems like if you're talented enough, we can forgive you for not getting results.
You get a longer leash, bro.
But if you're not talented enough and you get results, it can't be you. It can't be because of you. It can't be. You can't be the reason why you're successful. You're just along for the ride. I've seen Josh Allen fumble rosters. I've seen Justin Herbert fumble rosters. Justin Herbert has had more good rosters than bad ones. I'm not buying that. And there's guys in this league who have done nothing but giving you a lot of fantasy points and giving you something fun to talk about from week 8 to week 18, who've done nothing in this league, done nothing in the playoffs, done nothing. Doesn't even have a single playoff win. And those are the guys that are able to skate under the radar. The amount, and we gotta understand this, right? People make choices. Yes. Writers make choices. And these writers have chosen to key in on the Philadelphia Eagles, but more importantly, or more notably, they've chosen to key in on Jalen Hurts because he's a guy that A, won't say anything. 2, his career he's been a polarizing figure since Alabama. And people just can't figure him out. And when they can't figure you out, and you don't give them a path to figure you out, they're gonna create their own narrative. They're gonna create their own path. And I have a hard time believing the big story is coming. The big story is Super Bowl MVP Jalen Hurts, quarterback of the Philadelphia Eagles, needs to be worried about his future. Whereas though Justin Herbert, a quarterback who was drafted in the top 10 by the Los Angeles Chargers, he was a top 6 overall pick. He was drafted to change that franchise. That's a franchise-altering draft. That's franchise-altering draft capital right there.
How about this?
He has not won a single playoff game. That's the bigger story. Come on, man. That's the bigger story. That's the bigger story.
What about Trevor Lawrence?
Number 1 overall pick. But this is what happens when you were drafted in the top 5. Actually, I'm not even sure if it's really just the draft standing, because there's guys who've been drafted high and they get killed because they were black. So I can't even say it's strictly the draft stock.
It's not, but it's been that way recently. You're exactly right, but that just goes to the point where the narrative will go back in NFL history and they will cherry pick who they use as examples. They want to cherry pick. Hell, we can for me, the low-hanging fruit is everybody and their mama want to tell me how good Dak is. Dak ain't sniffing the Super Bowl. He's had opportunities. Didn't Dak have one of the best running backs? Didn't Dak have one of the best defenses? Didn't Dak have one of the best wide receivers?
There was a season where Dak had offensive weaponry that had 2 1,000-yard receivers, a 1,000-yard running back, and he was a 4,000-yard passer. That does not happen. Doesn't happen.
Do you remember when we hired Kellen Moore, and there was some Philadelphia fans that was feeling some kind of way because he was responsible for Dak's best statistical year as a pro? And people was feeling some kind of way. Some Philly fans was crashing out because he used to coach for the Cowboys. But guess what? He coached for the Cowboys. He got the best out of Dak. He coached for the Eagles. He got a ring. Which one he want to trade in? All them people with all of them stats. Josh Allen. Would you trade your MVP for a Super Bowl ring? Lamar Jackson, would you trade your 2 MVPs for a Super Bowl ring? All of them folks that almost made it. All of them folks, you know my favorite stat. 45,000 plus passing yards was on the bench watching the playoffs. The long ball is overrated. I don't give a damn how good your quarterback is if the team around him is just okay. It's going to come to an end at some point. At some point. Everything has to be working together. This past year for Seattle, everything was just happening to working together. And when we watched that Super Bowl, after we woke up from watching that boring shit, what did everybody say? Man, if the Eagles would have been there, we would have mollywopped the damn Patriots. And I agree. But we ain't make it because we didn't take care of business when we were supposed to take care of business. We missed the opportunity. We missed a golden opportunity to go back to back. And if you want to put some of it on Jalen Hurts, that's fair because you have to put it on him because he's QB1. Comes with the territory. But anybody with eyes that can see, it was some other things going on. How many times last year did Smitty drop balls? I remember that Cowboy game.
Mm-hmm. He dropped the football in that Commanders game.
Yeah,
where Kenny Pickett hit him and he dropped it. If he catch that ball, if he catch that ball, that's a walk-in touchdown. We win.
AJ Brown had arguably his worst season as a pro, and I'm not talking about statistics. I'm just talking about his level of play as a pro. Since he's been with the Eagles, this was the worst year. And I'm looking at it from sometimes his effort, how many times he fingertip balls, because he took that half a step off and didn't go full tilt. How many balls did get overthrown because he thought he wasn't getting the ball?
Mm-hmm.
So not statistically, just the way he was playing, this was A.J. Brown's worst year, on top of the times he had the drops and all of that other kind of stuff. When normally 2 years ago, A.J. Brown catching everything.
Mm-hmm.
Not to mention our tight ends, not to mention, and the biggest, and I'll say this again, and I would say this is more of a reason, more than Kevin Patullo, is that offensive line. And I stand 10 toes down on that. If our offensive line would have just been adequate at run blocking, Kevin Patullo would still have his job.
Marcus, I'm telling you this right now. Like I said, I've been sitting back and I've been listening to people. And the one point that no one has made,
Nobody says it.
Nobody wants to talk about it because
They say it in passing.
they barely say it in
The offensive
passing.
line was not as good.
They
and then keep
barely
moving.
say it in passing.
Man, our offensive line was not good.
That offensive line was not good at all.
At all.
At all.
Out of every group, specific.
Out of every group, they underperformed most at run blocking. Yes, but that's a key part of who the Philadelphia Eagles are and who they've been. Let's not get it twisted. The Eagles have been a 50-50 run pass team, or if you want to call them run first, sure. They've been that since what, 2019? Like, I've been looking at some of the years that have gone by with the Philadelphia Eagles, right? From just a run pass standpoint. And I want to take it from, I don't know where to begin per se, but let's start here. Let's start from 2018, right? In 2018, the Philadelphia Eagles passed the ball 422 times, ran it 398 times. That's damn near 50-50. In 2019, the Philadelphia Eagles passed the ball 613 times, ran it 454 times. Now, that disparity, that's probably more 60-40 or 55-45, however you want to do the math. Somebody do the math. I don't really feel like it right now. Where we at? 2020. In 2020, when they went to 4-11-1, 598 pass attempts, 403 rush attempts. But also keep in mind the success of the teams.
Yes.
2018, 9-7. They passed the ball a tick more than they ran it. 2019, they passed the ball more than they ran it. 2020, passed the ball more than they ran it. 4-11-1. 2021. In 2021, Jalen Hurts' first year starter. They passed the ball 494 times. They run it 550 times. That's Jalen Hurts' first year starting. First year. In 2022, when he goes on the Super Bowl run, they passed the ball 536 times. They ran it 544 times.
Super balanced.
And 2023, they passed it 563 times, ran it 510 times. Balanced.
Yeah, but even with that balance, you got to be effective running the ball.
So my overall point is, since Jalen Hurts has become, because they try to spin things like it's new or it's a revelation. Since Jalen Hurts has been the quarterback of the Philadelphia Eagles, they've been, in theory, a balanced, borderline run first team.
Absolutely.
That's who they've been. That's Jalen Hurts football.
And again, remember, in 2024, the offensive lineman had to pull Nick to the side and was like, hey, yo, we getting away from what we do best. We're going to have plenty of time to throw the ball.
And Jalen Hurts, above all else, knows what he is and knows what he ain't.
Correct.
And that's why I think Jalen Hurts is coachable. Because he's always willing to do what's necessary.
Tone, that ain't even up for debate, bro. Whoever wrote that, to me, loses all credibility. All credibility. But the point I wanted to make about the run game, and I'm looking at it, I know we were balanced. The problem was we couldn't run inside the tackles. So I'm looking at it from strategic perspective. The main goal of a successful running game is twofold. Number one, you got to occupy the linebackers. Number two, you got to occupy the safeties. Because if you get to the second level, the safeties have to come up. If the run game is good enough, the safeties have to respect the run, just like they basically deep linebackers. We got that in 24 with Saquon, because Saquon was running over everybody. And the minute them DBs would turn their hips to run with AJ or Smitty, they turn around and up, here comes Saquon. Let me break off to see if I can stop a touchdown. So they had to respect it. So what do you think happens if the run game is ineffective inside the tackles. Not as much pressure on the linebackers. Definitely not as much pressure on the safety and strong safety. So they don't have to worry so much about support. So that lets your defense pin their ears back and bring the noise because they don't have to worry about somebody taking it to the second level and going 76 yards on a run. How many times in 2024 did we have 4th and long, 3rd and long, and we ran the ball and got the first down? We couldn't do that to save our lives this year. A lot of people, a lot of naysayers, a lot of Jalen haters don't really understand how much it hurt the offense that the offensive line was not as good. And to me, that cost Kevin Patullo his job because that same offensive line covered Kellen Moore's warts. We were still bitching about Kellen Moore throwing them freaking triple left screens and all of that nonsense that everybody knew was coming. And we were looking at him like, you can't think of nothing better? And then here comes Saquon with a 50-yarder to save the day. Now, because Cam Jurgens, we find out he slipped a disc and could barely walk after games. And, you know, it was all nice when Landon Dickerson brought beer for everybody a couple days after surgery during training camp, and come to find out he was never 100% either. So you get 2 out of 50% of your best offensive linemen are gone, not up to snuff. My question is, how come we couldn't get Brett Toth in there? What was the problem with Brett Toth? What was the problem with our backups?
The money, Marcus. They just paid Cam Jurgens that money in the offseason. They can't just put him on the bench.
Again, I said the same thing. We know that. If I'm gonna look at Kevin Patullo and say, hey, it's your job. I don't give a damn what Jalen Hurts says. If he come up with some bullshit for a 4 verse, and I don't believe he did that, but okay, if you say he did that, it's your job as an offensive coordinator to correct him and come up with a better idea. Because if you agree with him that was the best play you can call, then you deserve to be fired. So I got to look at the offensive line, and you already know I hate to say this, because I was in my feelings when Jeff Stoutland walked, but that's on Jeff Stoutland. That is his responsibility. We get so caught up in all he's gritty and gutsy, and you know his leg was hanging off, and we had it taped on, and he still played. Well, guess what? If you playing hurt and you still getting your ass whooped, you're not doing us any favors. Let the backup in there. The backup has to be able to. You have to be better than the guy in front of you at some point in time. There are some people. Lane Johnson could be at 65, 70%, and it will be better than 100% of his backup. I would like to say that about Cam Jurgens, but it wasn't the case because we saw what Brett Toth did in New York. That's the problem I have. We saw what he could do in New York. Now, why they never did that again.
That was the best your run game looked.
New York was the best offensive output, I believe, that the Eagles had this past year, 25. That was the best offensive output. Brett Toth was at center. No, Brett Toth is not better than Cam Jurgens, but Brett Toth is better than Cam Jurgens with sciatica. Come on now, we got to be better than that. That's why coaches get paid the money they get paid, because they have to be the ones to make those decisions. And our coaches didn't make those decisions. And we got burned for it. And it bit us in the ass, because that, to me, that is the most important thing. I don't care what anybody say. I say this to my kids when I was coaching Little League. The most important player on a football field is the center. It's not the quarterback. It's not Saquon. It's not AJ. It's not Smitty. It is the center, because only the center touches the ball every play. Y'all do know that it's some offensive plays where the quarterback won't touch the ball. They'll fast snap it to the running back or do some type of reverse with a halfback pass or something like that. The center touches the ball every play. And how many times did I bring up doing some of my film sessions where Cam Jurgens didn't block a soul? He was horrible. And then they had the nerve to send him to the freaking Pro Bowl. What? Our run blocking was trash, which made our play action trash, which pigeonholes the offense. It all has to work together or it doesn't work. So I will say again, if we could at least run block, we didn't even have to be good. We just had to be adequate.
Exactly.
And we couldn't even do that. Kevin Patullo will still have a job. And if you don't like Kevin Patullo, I would have liked Kevin Patullo in his second year more than I liked him in his first year, because you can't be that bad 2 years in a row. You have to learn something. Him and Jalen get a little bit more on the same page. Jalen does some things different. You have to get better.
To move the conversation forward, that is the question for Jalen Hurts, right? What can you get better, or what does better even look like for Jalen Hurts, right? Because as much as I am a fan of Jalen Hurts, when you're a fan of somebody, you also can point out their flaws in their game as well. And,
thank you, Ted.
And Jalen Hurts is somebody who has held the ball significantly longer than I would like him to hold the ball.
Yes, I agree.
Right? And Jalen Hurts is somebody, like you said earlier, hey, you missed that. Hey, why didn't you take off there? Hey, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? Like, what's going on there? What's going on? Like, you know, and we can nitpick why, but the reality is he has the ball in his hands. And there's moments where I'm like, hey, just let it rip. Just let it rip. And I think out of all criticisms about Jalen Hurts, that's the one that's probably my largest criticism of him, holding the ball too long. It's frustrating. It's very frustrating. So then you ask yourself, what is he seeing? And then I'm looking at some of these situations, I'm like, oh, no one's open. Or, hey, someone's open, trust him, throw the ball. There is a such thing as being too risk adverse, but then when you have the success he's had, being risk adverse, it's like, damn, is he really wrong?
No,
that's because we watched playoff game after playoff game after playoff game. These games are won and lost on turnovers.
Tone, what did we say earlier about 2023?
Like, what is game won and lost on turnovers?
He was throwing the ball all over the place in 23, but how many picks did he throw in 23?
Like 12, 13, something like that. It was something like that.
Like, do y'all realize that against the Chargers, Jalen Hurts threw 4 picks, and he only threw 6 picks for the whole year. 6 for the whole year, and he had a game where he threw 4 in one game. Like, do people understand that? So in 16 games, he only threw 2 picks. He had one game where he threw 4, and for the rest of the season, he only threw 2.
Yeah,
that is ridiculous.
This was a career year in terms of touchdown to interception ratio,
bro. And not for nothing. And here's one for all of the people that love to say that he can't throw. He's okay. You know, all I know is AJ Brown had damn near 5,000 yards receiving and 30 touchdowns since he's been with the Philadelphia Eagles and Jalen Hurts.
So what are we expecting, right? So we go into the 2026 season because everyone's saying this is a big year for Jalen Hurts, right? And you've even heard the narratives that this story was low key planted by Eagles brass, you know. And I think and I think that's the conspiracy. That's the tinfoil hats coming out now. And look, I'm not saying. Look, the reality is I don't know for sure. I don't know. I don't know anything. The reality is I don't know anything.
Pause right there. Pause right there, Tone. Pause right there. What did you just say? This is supposed to be like a prove-it year for Jalen Hurts, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just put the pin in it right there. When has it not been?
That's a good point, because when you think about Jalen Hurts' career from beginning to end, it always seems like he's been having to prove it every single season.
Even after he got paid.
Because think about it like this, right? In 2021, you got to prove that you can be the starter of this team. In 2022, you got to prove that, because remember, the team almost traded him that offseason. Remember that. So 2021, you got to prove that you can play in this league. Okay, you take them to the playoffs, you lose. In 2022, you survive the offseason, and now you got to prove that they made the right decision. In 2023, now you got to prove that you're worth the money.
But don't forget, because I've seen clips of Smitty and other players talking, and they specifically talk about the first time they saw Jalen Hurts, they knew he was special. So because remember, they seeing stuff that we don't see. So which means somebody knew something, and they were just biding their time. He was just biding his time till he got his opportunity, and again, he made the most of his opportunity. So I look at it from the standpoint of he's always had to prove himself, and not for nothing, you look at every starting quarterback in the league, in any good one, the pressure is always there. The pressure is always there, but it's not like, I'm trying to think right now, with the exception of Lamar Jackson, who else? Josh Allen, he's got pressure like that. Patrick Mahomes doesn't. Dak Prescott's got pressure like that. We got to win. You coach of the Cowboys, everything's at your feet. You're making moves and this, that, and the other. What are you going to do? You still ain't gotten far in the playoffs. Like all of that type of stuff. So everybody's got the pressure. That's common for all starting quarterbacks who like to think of themselves as the best in the league. And again, I will always go back to this until the quote unquote narratives tell me something different. Everybody's hooked on these optics.
Mm-hmm.
Jalen Hurts said it's not going to look the way you want it to look. If I win, it's good. And what do I always say? If you win, you nitpicking. If you lose, then that's when you criticize.
Do me a favor.
Jalen Hurts has done a hell of a lot more winning than he has losing.
There's a post here by Philly Dog, says, why aren't there any unhappy coaches or players with those top 5 non-Super Bowl winning coaches? Can you scroll up? He posted it at 8:27 p.m. 8:27 p.m. Philly Dog, he says, why aren't there any unhappy coaches or players with those top 5 non-Super Bowl winning quarterbacks?
You said 8:27?
Yeah, he posted it. I'm sorry, 9:27 p.m. your time. Excuse me.
Oh,
9:27 p.m. your time. Philly Dog. He says, why aren't there any unhappy coaches or players with those top 5 non-Super Bowl winning head coaches, right? Here's the unfortunate reality, Philly Dog. They're not asking them. They're not over there soul searching for the story. Because there's stories there. Trust me, there are. And go ask Greg Roman how he feels about the Justin Herbert situation. Go ask Kellen Moore how he felt about the Justin Herbert situation. Go ask Joe Lombardi how he felt about the Justin Herbert situation. Go ask Ken Dorsey about how he got fired mid-season for Joe Brady. Go see if Ken Dorsey is happy and what he got to say about that situation, or where he would place the blame as to why he lost his job.
Wait a minute. Ken Dorsey was the Buffalo Bills coordinator,
Ken
right?
Dorsey was the Buffalo Bills OC.
Wait a minute. I did a video about this when this happened.
And then they fired him mid-season, and then they elevated Joe Brady, and Joe Brady became the OC going forward.
Josh Allen threw 3 picks. He threw 3 picks in the game, and they fired the OC the next week.
Go ask Greg Roman about being in Baltimore, or Tom Monken about being in Baltimore. You think they ain't got nothing to say about how they lost their jobs? You think they ain't got nothing to say?
And also, when you're in a situation like that, when you're talking about a coach or a coordinator, they're not really going to say too much.
Exactly.
Because that puts them in a bad light for their next job. So they're not going
go to Buffalo.
Close to the vest.
Hey, listen.
Why you think Kevin Patullo's catching so much hell now after Richard Sherman outed him? And he did that during the season. Remember when he did that on his podcast? He said he got a friend of Kevin Patullo that called and was like, they don't understand how hard it is, and like had him crying. He did that during the season, and now all of a sudden we got sources close to the Eagles, sources close to the quarterback. So where are these sources coming from?
Hey, listen to this, Marcus. You want to find out what's going on in Buffalo? Go talk to those people in that building after that loss in that playoff game.
Absolutely.
Go talk to the people in that building and ask them how they really feel about Josh Allen. Go and talk to them.
Yo, they wanted Josh Allen. They thought Josh Allen was the bust his second year. They wanted to ship him out of town.
But even beyond that, even when he proved he wasn't a bust, he proved he could play.
Yeah, absolutely.
Josh Allen is one of the most talented quarterbacks I've ever seen in my eyes. I'm not going to deny his God-given ability. I'm not going to deny his work ethic. But guess what? The results are the results. And when you're in the playoffs and you do the things he's done in the playoffs, like blow games and have massive turnover-riddled games and big moments, go talk to people in that building and see how they feel. You'll find something. See, the thing is, it's like, you know how they always, you know how the whole thing, like, hey, if you know the whole thing about girls going to your phone, right? Your lady going to your phone. And as men, what do we always say? Well, if you look long enough, you'll find something.
Facts.
If you dig far enough, you can make sense of anything. So therefore, in Philadelphia, all they're doing is picking at a scab. They're just digging. And when you dig, you're gonna find something. If you're digging for gold, you may find some cubic zirconia in there. You may find some what is it? What's the fake gold? What's it called?
I don't even know.
Oh my God. It's a term for it. Nonetheless, the bottom line is if you go to Buffalo and you dig, you'll find some shit.
But that's everywhere, bro.
Exactly. So that's why I don't like the not just fool's gold, pyrite. Thank you, Wizard King. Pyrite. Thank you so much. Pyrite. But nonetheless, I guess my point isn't saying that because he said what he said about how come we don't hear other people jump out the window about these other quarterbacks because nobody's asking them.
Yeah, and again they can't. They can't. That's a death knell to their next job. You can't be a head coach and come out firing on, because basically as a coach, it looks like you making excuses for why you didn't get it done. That's why the coaches can't come out and say shit like that. So I don't. At the end of the day, you might get another opportunity. Everybody's looking at Atlanta with Kevin Stefanski. Everybody's looking at Tom Monken in Cleveland with Shador. Everybody's going to get another opportunity. You got Mannion coming here, and he gets to set it off. The problem with that is let's just say Mannion does everything and more. Jalen Hurts throws for 4,500 yards, rushes for 12 touchdowns next year. He gets the absolute max out of Jalen Hurts. What happens to Mannion after that? He gets a head coaching job, and we right back to square fucking one.
Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, the reality is, because we got guys in this league that throw for 4,000 yards, put up the 30 touchdowns, whatever it is, and they don't do shit.
No,
they don't go anywhere. And they want us, and they want to tell us, oh, well, they don't have enough around them like Jalen Hurts does. Oh, well, they had enough to get those yards. They had enough to have a productive offense, but now you're telling me they don't have enough. I'm not rolling.
That's another thing, Tone. That I hate that narrative that any quarterback could have won with the Eagles. Bullshit. Because when it was third and long in that Super Bowl and Jalen pulled that ball down and scrambled for that 17 yards in the first down, any quarterback can't do that. So, stop with that. It goes back to the argument where they say if you throw for 30 touchdowns and 4,000 yards, what's the difference between 30 touchdowns and 4,000 yards and 2,000 yards rushing, 2,000 yards passing, and 30 touchdowns each way? What's the difference? It's all the optics.
Bingo.
That is the only difference.
Bingo.
Who cares how you score 45 points? That's like you winning $1 million and getting mad because they gave it to you in 5s and 10s.
Like I said earlier, It's two things that just really come down to, if you ask me, where all this is rooted in. They hate how the brother carry himself.
Yep.
They hate that he walk around with too much confidence. They hate it. They
Don't
want him
go to the club. No baby mamas.
They want him to be more humble. They want I've even heard some of the narrative saying, this so-called Michael Jordan mindset that Jalen Hurts has, he don't have the right to walk around with that mindset. He's not that good.
Bruh.
He's not that good.
Yo, did you hear what that idiot Whitlock said?
Who said having a commitment to greatness is only excluded to the people who are extremely talented or have this crazy gift?
Only idiots say shit like that.
A commitment to greatness isn't. You can't build a fence around that. Either you have a commitment to winning, either you have a commitment to greatness, or you don't.
Right.
Like
period.
They're saying he doesn't have the right to have confidence in himself. He doesn't have the right to walk around like he didn't do what he did. He doesn't have the right to have an unwavering work ethic because he's not as talented as Michael Jordan. Last time I checked, the Mamba mentality was free. All you got to do is commit to it. You just got to commit to it. And again, Jalen Hurts is somebody who has never said a word. Not once. Not once has he been seen looking crazy, having a crazy press conference where he just taking all the credit. Jalen Hurts has never played himself. When it's easy to at that age. When it's easy to when you got that kind of money, got those kind of resources. You fresh over Super Bowl. Jalen Hurts has never played himself. And when you never play yourself and you never trick yourself out of position, they're going to find something to talk about when it comes to you. And like I said to start the show, as we begin to bring the show to a close, they talk about Jalen Hurts like he gamed the system. They talk about Jalen Hurts like he's cheating the sport. Jalen Hurts, and I repeat, let's really talk about this. Jalen Hurts was drafted by the Philadelphia Eagles. He wasn't some random guy they found on a rugby team and then they just put him in and all of a sudden he just don't. No. Jalen Hurts went to college, graduated with his bachelor's, was drafted in the second round to the Philadelphia Eagles, went to a 4-11-1 team, was on that roster when they went 4-11-1.
Yep.
Then the following year comes in as their starter, leads them to a 9-8 record. Right? Then 2022 comes, takes his game to another level. Remind you, I'm talking about a guy who's working, committing. Because when you think about what he was in 2021 versus now, it's no comparison.
Oh, I remember when Tabo said he couldn't read defense.
Right, all of that. So then this guy has done nothing but just keep his head down and grind and muscle and scratch and claw to get to where he's gotten. Had the bad defenses, had the bad roster, right? His wide receiver core at one point was, and this is no shot to Devontae Smith because he was the bright spot in there, but his receiving core at one point was Devontae Smith, Jalen Reagor, Greg Ward Jr., and J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. So, and I like Greg Ward. He's doing great things in the XFL right now. I like Greg Ward. But the reality is, come on. Jalen Reagor, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, Greg Ward, Devontae Smith. Stop it. So then the organization says, let's build more around this guy. They get him another wide receiver. He has Dallas Goedert there as well. Miles Sanders is benefiting from the offensive line doing his thing. Then they say, you know what? Let's add more to this thing. Let's really take it up a notch. Saquon, let's go. Hey, let's get Mekhi Becton that right guard. Let's do it. Hey, let's draft well on defense. This isn't some makeshift situation. They built this thing. Brick by brick by brick. Like Franklin said, I'll be damned if you expect me to get mad about the way another man talk. I built this thing brick by brick. And Jalen Hurts, you want him to be humble when he weathered the storm? He was drafted by this organization. This organization believed in him, invested in him, built the team around him, and he made do on not only the contract that they invested in him, he made do on the money they spent all across the roster. And I'm not even saying it's only him. It's a team effort. Football is the greatest team sport on the planet. Of course, it's a team sport, but he has to balance the plates in the air.
And remember how difficult it was supposed to be to ever get back to the Super Bowl after you lost your first one. Remember how difficult that was? Just the everybody wants the optics, man. They don't want the results; they want the optics. You got this idiot, Jason. Did you hear what Jason Whitlock said?
I honestly, he doesn't even he doesn't even exist in my
I try to tune him out, but I ended up seeing this on Twitter, and I was like, "You must be effing kidding me." He said because he got an all-female business team behind him, he gets distracted because his agent and her team is so good looking, he gets distracted. So Jason Whitlock is bringing all this Joy Taylor baggage and trying to dump it on Jalen Hurts. I'm like, dude, are you out of your freaking mind? And he said that with a straight face. I was like, Lord have mercy. They reaching for shit. They're reaching for it. Colin Cowherd. I told you the truth is coming out about Jalen Hurts. What
truth?
Thank you. What truth? You talking out of both sides of your mouth.
You go where the wind takes you.
You were the one that said that the Eagles had no chance with Jalen Hurts to beat Patrick Mahomes. No chance.
He goes where the wind takes him because the same thing that people. He was one of them. He was one of them. Jalen Hurts is mature. You need a guy like Jalen Hurts to navigate that Nick Sirianni personality. Jalen Hurts is the straw that stirs the cup. Jalen Hurts is the mature voice in the building. And all of a sudden, the same traits that they praise you for, they flip it and kill you for. That's why you can't take these motherfuckers serious.
Tone, since Tom Brady, who is the nastiest quarterback in the league after Tom Brady?
Probably Patrick Mahomes, man.
Patrick Mahomes.
Patrick Mahomes. See, I'm talking.
Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers. See, I ain't gonna lie. I'm only gonna name guys that's winning, man. Winning.
But think about it like this. Okay,
Aaron Rodgers, Mahomes.
Think about it like this. Take Patrick Mahomes
and
take Aaron Rodgers. Those are probably the two best quarterbacks after Tom Brady, since Tom Brady has retired.
Correct.
Okay. He went toe-to-toe with Patrick Mahomes twice, outplayed him twice. Lost one, won one.
Significantly.
Not even, to your point, not even close. Right? Aaron Rodgers. Last I checked, Aaron Rodgers only been to one Super Bowl. He won it. Well, my guy won one too. And he lost the first one. And everybody and their mama told him he would never get back to a second one because it was just so hard. And there's no way you're getting back with the coach that you have because he's a nutcase and screaming at fans, and everybody has something to say.
Mm-hmm.
If y'all saw my thumbnail, you know where I'm going with this. Talking that gibberish, everybody got something to say. They forgot about Jay. Sometimes you got to understand, and I can't stress this enough. I don't care what it looks like. I don't. I want Jalen Hurts to throw for 4,000 yards, 4,500 yards, and just throw the ball all over the field. I want that. But I would rather win. It'll be a very interesting thing if they move on from A.J. Brown. And to watch A.J. Brown wherever he goes. And all of these yards that he may get. There's no guarantee. Because again, for a quarterback that for some reason can't throw the ball, A.J. Brown sure did get a lot of yards, and somebody had to throw to him. You don't go to the Pro Bowl and get voted all pro. Somebody got to be throwing him the ball. That's all I'm saying. The optics. Everybody wants the optics. Everybody wants the Matthew Stafford stats. Everybody wants the Jared Goff stats. Remember when they said Detroit was the best team and we whooped that ass too?
Mm.
What else do you need to see? Results are greater than optics. But the way the narrative goes, the way this online social media environment we are in, they want the optics, they want the clicks, they want all of that stuff. That's why the narrative changes, and that's where the goalpost is always being moved. When they talked about Jalen Hurts coming out, you don't want that type of quarterback, because that type of quarterback will never take you to the Super Bowl. That type of quarterback is not a franchise quarterback. That type of quarterback is always going to have to run and use his legs to get out of trouble. That type of quarterback is not going to get you to the promised land. And he just disrupted all of that bullshit.
He did something he shouldn't.
Twice.
He did something he really, really wasn't supposed to do.
Correct.
And because of that, it's about his character now.
Because they ain't got nowhere else to go.
When he's been probably one of the most stand-up dudes on his team outside of Devontae Smith, and I can name other guys, but
always. And not for nothing, shout out to CJ Gardner-Johnson.
For sure.
Shout out
For
to CJ.
sure.
For somebody finally kept it 100. And if anybody could have had any gripe with Jalen Hurts, it could have been him.
Definitely could have been him.
But he kept it a bean. He didn't have to.
CJ Gardner-Johnson kept that. He kept it. He was like, what? Like, bro, he probably the most thorough one in the building. Like
again, and matter of fact, and what does CJ say? All them offensive coordinators, again, people on the outside looking in, they don't understand. I tried to explain. If you saw my show the other day, my stream the other day, I went into detail about what happens. Me as an undrafted free agent, reporting to rookie camp late because I stayed in college. I stayed at school for an extra day because I had a final so I could graduate on time and everything was good. So I was done. Reported to Philadelphia a day late. And I go into my first meeting and my coach drops a packet of plays, 60, 70 plays on my desk. This is what we're going over today. Then he drops another packet of 60 or 70 plays on top of that one and says, this is what you missed yesterday. Then when camp starts, we got that big 3-4 inch thick 3-ring binder, which was our playbook because we ain't have iPads and all that shit. Wasn't invented back in the day. Shit, I graduated before DOS. Like, stop playing with me. Windows 95 hadn't been invented. So we had to memorize that big, thick-ass book, and I'm saying that so people can get a visual understanding of how many plays are in a playbook. Now they give you a iPad that's got 200, 10 terabytes worth of plays. So if you got one play, they got that play against every defense, every look, every blitz. And you got to know all of that stuff. And then once you know it, if the coach leaves, you got to start from square one. And I just honestly don't think that the average person really knows how difficult that is. The level of difficulty, the learning curve on that shit is off the charts. But that ain't no big deal. Just keep throwing offensive coordinators. We expect him to be playing at a high level regardless. Everybody wants the optics over the results. I will always take the results. Always. Yes, we lost in the first round to a San Francisco team that wasn't better than us. But guess what? We made it to the playoffs. How many teams didn't? Stafford didn't do no better. He threw for a whole lot of yards, though. Justin Herbert didn't do no better. He threw for a whole lot of yards, though.
Sure did.
Kirk Cousins just cashing checks. He didn't do shit. He has never done anything, and they keep paying him money. Why? Because his optics look better than what we have. That's why they pay him the money. $120 million contract to be a freaking backup. Are you kidding me? They actually did that. And then they got a nerve to talk shit on Lamar and talk shit on Jalen. And, you know, it's
Hey,
crazy.
listen, I'll tell you this, right? Look at Kirk Cousins in his career and how teams have invested the kind of money they did in him. And look at
Nothing
Jalen
was
Hurts
shown.
and look at Jalen Hurts and how he's being discussed. And it'll tell you everything you need to know.
Yep.
It'll tell you everything you need to know. Look at Justin Herbert, drafted the same draft class, has had comparable rosters. I don't care what nobody say that. The Chargers have had rosters. They've had good defenses and talented enough offenses, especially with the quarterback to take them over the top. They've had it.
Josh Allen this year in
And
25. Josh Allen had the number 1 running back in the league.
you think about how Justin Herbert is covered. You think about how Jalen Hurts is covered. It tells you everything you need.
Everything you want to know. It's some bullshit.
Tells you everything you need to know.
Bullshit. So
Jalen Hurts is a guy who has done nothing but do his job and maximize opportunity.
Man, I hope him and Sean Mannion is in the lab, bro.
I really do. I'm so excited. I'm so excited for the season, Marcus. Other than that, man, any other things you want to hit, man, before we get out of here?
Yes, real quick.
What's up?
My man posted this in the chat, and I was like, "Say what?"
Oh yeah, let's get to super chats too. We kind of been skating on those a little too, like, so let's. If it's a super chat, let's try to hit those if we can.
Hold on for a sec. Hold on.
For sure.
Let me.
Oh my God, I saw this earlier, and I was like, "Hold on, it's the New York Post."
I was like,
"Listen,
what?"
Well, listen, I was like, "It's the New York Post. Let's not overreact. It's the New York Post."
Well, all I know is Diana Rossini is married. I don't know if Rabel is, and this could be. They could just be cool and just say, "Hey, what's up? Good to see you." But that is not a good look.
Nah, the chilling by the pool part is the next level.
Yeah,
because you can see somebody say, "Hey," like, but his hug with his head tilted to the right kind of looks like it's one of those. Actually, no. He got his hands around her neck on that hug. Nah, and she got his head on his love handles. No, we can't do that. We can't do that. So, yeah, that looked nuts. And I'm saying it's trying to get picked up from other publications, because at first I was like, could this be AI? Could this be AI? The New York Post isn't the most reputable,
right?
You know what I'm saying?
But when I saw the headline, and I was like, damn, Diana Rossini has been talking a lot of shit about AJ Brown and the Patriots.
She has.
I was like, oh snap.
The AJ Brown saga has been her career the past 2 seasons.
Yes, it has.
It's been her career. She's quite literally made her bucks off of the Eagles and the AJ Brown, Jalen Hurts situation. She has.
Yes. I just thought that was interesting. We'll keep an eye on that.
It's very interesting.
We'll keep an eye on that. It could be very innocent. It could be, but
not. Listen, it's not innocent. You know why? Because the hanging out at the pool looks funny money.
It does, don't it?
It's one thing to run into somebody in passing, but the hug around the neck. See, the professional hug is the side hug. That wasn't a professional hug, and we know it.
Well,
come on,
see,
Marcus.
Now we get into the next phase. This is the problem. This is the problem. We're trying to analyze his hands in a grainy picture.
Ain't nothing grainy about where his hands at.
He got 2 fists. He looked like he got 2 nubs in that second picture on the right. But at the end of the day, I think it's more of they chilling in the pool together. You know what I'm saying? Now, it would be hella funny if whoever shot this video and 10 seconds later, her husband walks up or something goofy like that or something. See, you just never know. But it is not a good look.
I was just about to ask you, why is it interesting to you then?
Because of everything with her and AJ and the Patriots and all that kind of stuff.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
And plus, and let's keep it real. For the same reason we talking about Jalen Hurts right now, everybody's so pissed off at Diana Rossini. It's like, you know what? You looking for a little bit of karma because it sounds like you've been making up some shit.
Guy got an interesting way of reminding people that
Facts.
we all still walking this earth and putting our pants on one leg at a time.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, man. Man, I'm glad you pulled it up, man. That was definitely a great off ramp point.
Yeah, man.
That looks nuts, bro. Since y'all so concerned about optics, focus on those optics.
Facts.
Oh man. Make sure you guys smash
funny.
that like button. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the comments is hilarious. Make sure you guys smash that like button. Make sure you guys are subscribed to Pro Fan Talk. Make sure you are subscribed to Chalk Up Sports. I really do appreciate the love. We both appreciate the love. You guys have been phenomenal. We're going to continue to give you guys perspective on the Philadelphia Eagles and the NFL. Anything that comes our way, you guys, we're going to give you guys perspective. We really do appreciate it. So, again, he's Marcus Thomas. I'm your guy, Tone DeShows II. This has been the Bald Eagles Podcast. And we're out here, y'all. Fly, Eagles, fly.
Go Birds.
In the city of Philly, where the birds take flight, Eagle swag on the rise each and every night. Tone and Marcus got the scoop ready to ignite. From the lanes of South Street to the Broad Street lights, dashing like a running back, hitting every play. Flying guys in the zone, never led astray. Talking touchdowns, talking game day. Huddle around the mic, hear what they gotta say. I like an eagle soaring in the sky. Tone and Marcus always standing by, bringing their heat, call it do or die. Philly squad, hear the battle cry. Fly like an eagle soaring in the sky. Tone and Marcus always standing by, bringing their heat, call it do or die. Philly squad, hear the